Hey, spooky people, this is your best friend, Kenny. Today we have part 2 of tier 2 of my Iceberg series on unsolved mysteries and weird things. I've explained the Iceberg or how the Iceberg series works in my other videos, but the idea is there is a chart that's made with a list of various things, and the deeper you go on the chart, the more obscure the events or the strange or mysterious things, the unsolved mysteries, the weird things get, to where the first, the very top, the tip of the iceberg that you would see peeking out of the ocean are things most people are aware of. And as you go deeper and deeper into the iceberg, the more obscure the stories get. I had already completed tier 1. There are 3 videos in that series. I suggest you go watch those first, but you can watch these videos however you want. I'm not here to tell you what to do. This is part 2 of tier 2. There is a part 1. I know that this is a little complicated, but, stay with me. We can handle this, and really just go watch them all. Just go watch them all. It'll be fine. Mandy the Haunted Doll. Mandy the Haunted Doll is a supposed real-life haunted doll residing in the Quesnel Museum in British Columbia, Canada. She is a local celebrity and attracts visitors curious about her spooky reputation. Mandy is an antique porcelain doll, estimated to be around 100 years old. She was donated to the museum in 1991 by a woman who claimed the doll was previously owned by her grandmother. Museum staff and visitors have reported strange occurrences around Mandy, such as hearing crying or whispering sounds near the doll, a sense of unease in her presence, seeing Mandy's eyes follow them, objects moving or being misplaced near Mandy's display case. Mandy has attracted some of those paranormal investigators who have visited Mandy and have recorded or claimed to have recorded EVPs or electronic voice phenomena and other evidence of paranormal activity around her. There are a few theories about why Mandy might be haunted. Some people believe Mandy is attached to her original owner and is unhappy being in a museum. Hey, I get it. Museums are cool to visit, but can you imagine having to stand in that box all day, looking at people, tapping on the glass? Probably real annoying. Others believe that the doll has absorbed negative energy or emotions from her past, which manifests as paranormal activity. If that were true, though, you think all of us would manifest as paranormal activity, or at least a lot of us, right? Some believe a spirit or entity has attached itself to the doll. Good news, if you're in British Columbia, Quesnel, British Columbia, you can go visit Mandy. So go say hi. The Stanford prison experiment. I think most people know about this. I think I had to read about this in high school. I don't know if that's like standard high school reading or it just happened to be my high school, but the Stanford prison experiment was a psychological study conducted in 1971 at Stanford University, designed to investigate the psychological effects of perceived power, focusing on the struggle between prisoners and prison guards. 24 male college students were selected from a pool of volunteers and randomly assigned to be either guards or prisoners. A mock prison was created in the basement of Stanford Psychology Building with cells, a solitary confinement room, and other prison-like features. Guards were given uniforms, batons, and mirrored sunglasses to enhance their sense of authority and anonymity. Prisoners wore smocks with ID numbers and were referred to only by their numbers. The experiment was supposed to last 2 weeks, but was abruptly stopped after just 6 days due to the alarming behavior of the participants. The guards quickly became authoritarian and abusive, subjecting the prisoners to harassment, humiliation, and degrading tasks. They devised creative ways to assert their power and control, leading to psychological and emotional distress among the prisoners. The prisoners initially resisted the guards' authority, but soon became passive and submissive. Many exhibited signs of extreme stress, anxiety, and depression. Some even experienced emotional breakdowns. The Stanford prison experiment revealed the powerful influence of social roles and situational factors on human behavior. It established how quickly ordinary individuals could adopt and internalize harmful behaviors when placed in positions of power, even in a simulated environment. The experiment was widely criticized for its ethical implications, particularly the psychological harm inflicted on the prisoners. It raised questions about the researchers' responsibility to protect participants and the abuse of power in research settings. Despite the ethical problems, the Stanford prison experiment remains a significant study in social psychology. It has been widely discussed and analyzed, contributing to our understanding of social roles. It also established the dangers of unchecked authority and how power can corrupt and lead to abuse. The Battle of Los Angeles. Now, this isn't the Rage Against the Machine album. Might be showing my age with that one. Is Rage Against the Machine considered an oldie now? Are those oldies? I think they might be. Oof, that's tough. The Battle of Los Angeles, also known as the Great Los Angeles Air Raid, was an incident that occurred on the night of February 24th and 25th, 1942, just a few months after the U.S. entered World War II. It involved an alleged enemy attack on Los Angeles and the subsequent anti-aircraft artillery barrage that ensued. Military radar picked up on an unidentified object approaching Los Angeles from the west. Air raid sirens blared throughout the city and a blackout was ordered. Anti-aircraft batteries opened fire on the supposed target, filling the night sky with exploding shells and searchlights. Despite the intense barrage, no enemy planes were ever confirmed to be present. The incidents caused widespread confusion and fear, with many people in Los Angeles believing they were under attack by Japanese aircraft. However, the lack of evidence of any enemy planes led to speculation about what the military was actually firing at. The prevailing theory is the idea of war nerves or war anxiety, which may have manifested because of an overreaction in the tense atmosphere following the attack on Pearl Harbor. It also might have been a weather balloon. The initial radar contact may have been a weather balloon or other airborne object misidentified as an enemy aircraft. Others believe that the anti-aircraft fire may have been triggered by a friendly aircraft or even flares and shell bursts from other batteries. Of course, some people believe that it might have been a UFO. Personally, I like the UFO theory. Spontaneous human combustion. Spontaneous human combustion is the purported phenomenon of the human body catching fire and burning without any apparent external source of ignition. It's a concept that has captured the public imagination for centuries, appearing in literature and even scientific discussions. Reports of spontaneous human combustion often share common features. Localized burning. The body is often severely burned, particularly the torso, while the remaining environment may show minimal fire damage. Rapid combustion. The burning is said to be rapid and intense, sometimes reducing the body to ashes. Generally, there's no obvious external cause for the fire or ignition source, such as a lit cigarette or an open flame. There is usually a greasy or oily residue, sometimes found near the remains. Scientists generally dismiss spontaneous human combustion as a real thing. Most cases can be explained by more conventional causes, such as, a small or overlooked ignition source. Again, like a cigarette, a faulty electrical appliance, some sort of sparks that could have ignited, whatever. The wick effect. The theory suggests that the body's fat can act as a fuel source while clothing and bedding acting as a wick. Once ignited, the body fat can slowly burn for an extended period, causing significant damage. And while not a direct cause of spontaneous human combustion, excessive alcohol consumption can make individuals more susceptible to accidents and less likely to escape a fire. Personally, I think the more reasonable explanations for spontaneous human combustion, that it's not actually spontaneous, that there just might be a source that people are overlooking. I think that's probably the right answer to this. But again, who knows? The Zone of Silence. The Zone of Silence, or La Zona del Silencio, is a desert region in the Mapimi Biosphere Reserve in Durango, Mexico, known for its strange magnetic anomalies and unusual occurrences. It's a place where radio signals are said to mysteriously vanish and compasses spin wildly, giving rise to numerous legends and theories about its nature. The Zone of Silence has a reputation for several unusual phenomena. Supposedly, radio waves cannot penetrate the zone, making communication in the area difficult or impossible. Compasses are said to spin erratically and unable to find true north. The area has experienced meteorites and the impact of meteorites, including the Allende meteorite, one of the largest. Unusual flora and fauna. Some reports mention mutations in plant and animal life within the area. There have been reports of strange lights, UFO sightings, and encounters with unusual beings. Not really clear on what type of unusual beings, if it's, Bigfoot and El Chupacabra, or if it's just some weird guy named, Zach. But science has attempted to explain the Zone of Silence, and there are a few theories, such as that there are magnetic anomalies in the area. Some scientists believe that unique magnetic properties interfere with the radio waves and compass readings. They believe that a high number of meteorite impacts could have altered the local geology and magnetic fields in the area. There's also a belief that atmospheric conditions, such as temperature inversions, could be affecting the radio waves in the area. Of course, the Zone of Silence has become a popular destination for tourists and researchers interested in the paranormal. Good news. If you want to go see this place, go ahead. You can go visit the Zone of Silence. Why don't you go visit the Zone of Silence and tell me how it is in the comments? I would love to hear about it. The Crooked Forest. The Crooked Forest is a grove of oddly shaped pine trees located near the town of Gryfino, West Pomerania in northwest Poland. The small forest, which consists of around 400 pine trees, is a fascinating natural anomaly that has puzzled scientists and visitors for decades. The trees in the Crooked Forest exhibit a peculiar J-shaped bend at their base, with the trunks curving sharply northward before turning upright again. This uniform curvature, along with the fact that all the trees bend in the same direction, creates a surreal and almost eerie landscape. The exact cause of the tree's unusual shape remains a mystery, but there have been several theories that have been proposed. The most popular theory suggests that local farmers manipulated the trees in the 1930s to create curved timber for furniture or boat building. Always humans. You can always expect humans to have messed some of this stuff up. They may have used tools or techniques to force the young trees to grow in this unusual shape. However, the specific method remains unknown. The outbreak of World War II may have interrupted their plans. Others speculate that heavy snowfall could have flattened the young trees, causing them to grow with a permanent bend. However, that doesn't explain why the other trees in the area remain straight. Some other theories include gravitational anomalies, a unique microclimate, or even a genetic mutation. The Crooked Forest is a protected natural monument in Poland, and it attracts tourists. So again, you can go visit the Crooked Forest. It's a popular destination for nature lovers and those who like weird things. And in this channel, we like weird things. So go visit the Crooked Forest and tell me about it. Okay? Probably a little safer than some of these other creepy places, right? The Wendigo is a terrifying creature from Algonquin folklore, prominent in the stories of tribes in the northern United States and Canada. It's a malevolent spirit associated with cannibalism, greed, winter, and starvation. The Wendigo is often depicted as gaunt and emaciated, associated with starvation. Its heart is made of ice, symbolizing its cold and heartless nature. Wendigos are believed to possess superhuman strength and speed, as well as the ability to mimic human voices to lure victims. Wendigos are said to have insatiable craving for human flesh, and the more they consume, the larger and hungrier they become. The Wendigo is seen as a cautionary tale against cannibalism, which is taboo in many Algonquin cultures, especially during harsh winters when food was scarce. Also taboo in most cultures. The Wendigo also symbolizes the dangers of greed, selfishness, and the pursuit of material wealth at the expense of others. The creature is associated with wintertime and the harshness of winter, a time of scarcity and isolation which can push people to their limits and reveal their true nature. In some Algonquin cultures, the term Wendigo psychosis refers to a condition where individuals develop an intense craving for human flesh even when other food is available. The condition was often attributed to possession by the Wendigo spirit. The Phoenix Lights. The Phoenix Lights were a series of strangely sighted, unidentified flying objects observed in the skies over Phoenix, Arizona, and other parts of southwestern United States on the evening of March 13th, 1997. The incident remains one of the most famous and well-documented UFO sightings in history. There were two separate events that evening. One involved a V-shaped formation of 5 lights in the sky seen moving slowly across the sky. Witnesses described it as enormous, silent, and spanning the width of a football field. Later in the evening, a series of stationary lights appeared in the sky, which formed a triangular pattern. Thousands of people, including residents, pilots, and even the governor of Arizona at the time, Fife Symington, that's a name, witnessed the lights. Many captured the events on video and photographs, providing visual evidence of what they saw. Despite a ton of analysis and investigations, the Phoenix Lights remain a source of debate and speculation. Some popular theories are military flares. The U.S. Air Force claimed that the second set of lights were flares dropped by an aircraft during a training exercise. However, this explanation doesn't account for the earlier V-shaped object. Aircraft formation. Some suggest that the V-shaped object could have been a formation of aircraft, possibly military or civilian. And of course, a lot of people like to believe that these were UFOs. The sheer number of witnesses and visual evidence makes the UFO theory pretty popular. Oh boy. Oumuamua. Oumuamua is the first interstellar object to visit our solar system. In 2017, this object came from interstellar space, meaning it originated from outside of our solar system and entered our solar system. It has a highly elongated cigar-like shape, unlike anything that had been previously observed in our solar system. It was estimated to be about 400 meters long and perhaps 40 meters wide. The Oumuamua exhibited non-gravitational acceleration, meaning it sped up slightly as it moved away from the sun. This acceleration couldn't be explained by the sun's gravity alone. Despite the acceleration, it didn't show any signs of cometary activity such as outgassing or a tail, which would typically explain such a speed boost. Now, some scientists believe the Oumuamua was a type of comet with unusual properties, perhaps composed of different materials than comets in our solar system. Others believe it might have been an asteroid or a piece of an asteroid that had broken apart after a collision. Others believe that it was perhaps either a UFO or some type of object sent by another civilization, such as a sail or a probe or a drone. I like the idea that it's just some sort of like drone that was sent over here by, aliens, and then they just sort of lost it and decided screw it. But Unfavorable Semicircle. Unfavorable Semicircle is a mysterious YouTube channel that appeared in 2015 and it vanished in 2017. It's an internet legend and contains bizarre content and cryptic messages, which we love. The channel uploaded tens of thousands of short videos, often at a rate of several uploads per minute. The videos typically featured abstract imagery, distorted audio, and snippets of text or code. Some videos were silent, while others contained unsettling sounds and distorted voices. The video titles usually had random numbers and symbols, including various zodiac symbols. After a little over a year of activity, the channel was deleted from YouTube. Nobody knows the purpose of this channel. And I mean, to be fair, there are a lot of YouTube channels that don't have any purpose, right? They're just people just making weird stuff and putting it on the internet. It's our bread and butter on the internet, right? Weird stuff on the internet. Others believe it was an elaborate alternate reality game with hidden clues and puzzles embedded in the videos. Some believe it was an art project, which, I think is probably a pretty reasonable explanation. And, there's always people that believe that the person who is uploading these videos had some sort of mental illness or was some sort of disturbed individual, and this was his way of communicating with the outside. In 2022, the supposed creator of Unfavorable Semicircle came out and said the channel was an art project. If you believe that, I think it makes sense. I think that's probably what most people on YouTube are doing. Most people making weird stuff on YouTube are generally doing it for the art. So I think that's probably a reasonable explanation. But, you don't have to believe it. Marble Hornets. Remember Slender Man? Slender Man was great, right? Marble Hornets is a web series that sort of pioneered both the Slender Man phenomena and the found footage genre on YouTube. It was created by Troy Wagner and Joseph DeLage. It first appeared in 2009. It first appeared in 2009 and gained a cult following for, really the incredible visuals. This was an incredibly done series, and you should really go check it out. The series revolves around Jay, a young man who receives a box of videotapes from his friend Alex, a film student who abruptly abandoned his project called Marble Hornets. As Jay reviews the tapes, he discovers disturbing footage of Alex's increasingly erratic behavior and encounters with a mysterious faceless entity known as the Operator. It utilized the found footage format, which, we've all seen the Blair Witch Project and other types of found footage, but this did it very well, very effectively. It used cryptic storytelling. There were frequently messages and codes in the clips and puzzles to solve. And it also utilized Twitter and other social and YouTube and separate YouTube, accounts to create this storytelling where it was an alternate reality game and that there was an actual in-game universe where these things occurred. This series is available on YouTube. and I recommend watching it. I watched it. I've watched it a few times. I did have the opportunity to watch it while it was still going on, but it was at like the tail end and when it had resolved itself. If you're a fan of spooky and weird things, you'll like Marble Hornets. Saturn's Hexagon. Saturn's hexagon is an atmospheric phenomenon. It's a long-lasting hexagonal cloud pattern located around the north pole of the planet Saturn, making it one of the most recognizable and striking features in our solar system. The clouds are a nearly perfect hexagon shape with 6 almost equally sized sides and angles. Each side of the hexagon measures about 9,000 miles long, which is wider than the diameter of Earth. It's essentially a jet stream with winds reaching over 200 miles per hour. Yet it's incredibly stable, remaining in the same position and shape for decades, despite the turbulent nature of Saturn's atmosphere. Scientists are still researching what is this thing and why is it like that. You know, they have a number of theories relating to dynamic fluids and atmospheric currents. Experiments have shown that when a fluid is rotated at different speeds, it can create polygonal shapes, including hexagons. So that's the current theory, is there's, you know, atmospheric jet stream condition that is creating this shape. But, you know, Saturn's far away and they're trying their best. Scientists are trying their best to study this type of stuff, but, you know, they might not know. Ruth Price. Now, this is sort of an old school one. There was a chilling, this is an old school one. There is in 1988, a woman named Ruth Price called 911, reporting a strange man outside of her house. After a brief silence, she screamed before the line went dead.
This is Ruth Price at 3877. What's the problem, ma'am? Oh, well, there's some guy been checking the place out.
How?
Well, he went in the back. I have an apartment in the back, and he said he was looking for a guy. And he comes to my door, and
Yes?
and said he's looking for an apartment. So I live alone, and I'm an old lady.
Mm-hmm. Where is he now, ma'am?
I don't have no idea.
Now, this used to be, you know, one of these creepy internet things that sort of went around, and it actually supposedly used to be a 911 training video of things not to do on 911. However, now the internet got a hold of the Ruth Price story, and it's believed that although the recording is real and she did scream, that she did not die in this occurrence, that a prowler was in the area. When she called 911, she was grabbed from behind and choked. She dropped the telephone, which caused, you know, the line to cut out, but she was able to break the attacker's grip and ended up surviving. And no one knows who her attacker was or why that happened. But Ruth Price would later die of old age or something like that. You know, not in this occurrence, which makes the audio extremely less concerning. The Clockman. The Clockman is a piece of lost media, a famous piece of lost media that was aired on Nickelodeon in 1976. The actual title is About Dressy Sally, and it became an internet legend. It's about a young girl named Sally who loses her glove her mother gave her, and instead of telling the truth, she lies, and then things take a dark turn. A creepy wizard with a clock for a head appears from her clock and takes her to a surreal world to teach her a lesson about honesty. Someone posted in a web forum remembering parts of this video, and other people remembered it, and there became an internet lost media search to find this video because it was vivid in these people's minds. People who were watching, Nickelodeon at the time were kids, and this thing sort of stuck with them because it was such an odd video. It's such a disturbing content. So there was a mass search in lost media circles, and many people thought it was either a hoax or just some sort of internet horror story. But in 2017, this video was discovered, and it turned out it was a pretty creepy video. So the people searching for this online talking about this creep video weren't making it up. Since it's been found, you could go and search for it and find it on YouTube. The Tunguska Event. The Tunguska Event was a massive explosion that occurred near the Podkamenia Tunguska River in Siberia, Russia. It happened in 1908 and was a powerful explosion. The explosion was estimated to be about 12 megatons and rocked the remote Siberian forest. The blast flattened an estimated 80 million trees over an area of 2,150 square kilometers, which is like 830 square meters. The explosion caused shock waves that were felt all around the world and produced glowing skies across Eurasia for several nights. However, there was no crater found. The most widely accepted explanation is that this event was caused by a meteor or asteroid that entered the Earth's atmosphere and exploded at an altitude of about 3 to 6 miles, and the airburst caused the widespread damage. Other scientists suggest that the object could have been a comet, which would have vaporized more completely upon entering the atmosphere, leaving less evidence. Other beliefs are, of course, natural gas explosion, a black hole collision, or aliens. I think the meteor explanation sort of is probably the best, or whatever, some sort of space object crashing into it probably makes the most sense. But, let's get weird with it, right? The Crying Boy refers to a mass-produced print of a painting by the Italian artist Giovanni Bregolin that became infamous in the 1980s due to an urban legend. This painting was mass-produced with various versions depicting tearful young boys and girls. The prints were widely popular in the 1950s. Why that would be popular, I have no idea. And it became a common sight across homes in Europe. There was a series of fires in the UK in the 1980s, and newspapers reported that firefighters often found prints of this crying boy / crying girl in the fire debris. This led to people believing that the paintings were cursed and were somehow causing the fires. The Sun newspaper, which is a terrible newspaper, fueled the legend with headlines like "The Blazing Curse of the Crying Boy." This in turn caused mass panic. With some people being afraid of owning the prints, some people held mass bonfires to destroy them. A good old art burning. So while the curse is likely BS, there's been some explanations. First, that since the prints were cheaply made, the painting may have been mass-produced in materials that couldn't burn. Other people point to confirmation bias, being that people are more likely to report cases where the print survived, because who would know if the print didn't survive, right? If the print was destroyed, no one would have known. Cindy Song. Cindy Song was a 21-year-old Penn State University student who mysteriously disappeared from State College, Pennsylvania on November 1st, 2001, After a Halloween night with her friends, her case remains unsolved, and no one knows what happened to her. Cindy was an art major at Penn State. She was born and raised in South Korea and later moved to Virginia to live with her aunt and uncle. On Halloween night, Cindy went to a bar with friends dressed in a bunny costume. She was last seen being dropped off at her apartment complex at 4 a.m. Cindy never entered her apartment, and her belongings, including her purse and Halloween costume, were later found scattered near a local creek. Despite extensive searches and investigations, Cindy's disappearance remains a mystery. Several leads and persons of interest have been explored, but no concrete evidence has ever emerged. There were reported sightings of Cindy's in the days following her disappearance, but none of them have been confirmed. Now, a convicted murderer named Hugo Silencio was investigated as a possible suspect, but no direct link was established and he was never charged. So, like, with all of these missing people cases, the question is, well, what happened to her? Well, she either disappeared on purpose, right? Decided to leave. Someone, was involved. There was foul play, or there was an accident, right? I know that's an oversimplification of things. People want to know, well, who did it and why, or what happened and why. And, that those type of questions continue to haunt her family and, people who are interested in the case. The Mary Celeste. The Mary Celeste is one of the most popular maritime mysteries of all time. This ship was found adrift and deserted in the Atlantic Ocean in 1872 with no sign of struggle or any indication of why its crew vanished. On December 4th, 1872, a British ship encountered the Mary Celeste sailing erratically about 400 miles east of the Azores. Upon boarding, the crew found that the Mary Celeste in seaworthy condition with its cargo intact and personal belongings of the crew still in place. However, there was no sign of the captain, his wife, their young daughter, and the 7 crew members. The last entry in the ship's log was dated 10 days earlier, when the Mary Celeste was near the Azores. The disappearance of the crew and captain have baffled investigators and historians. There was no indication of piracy or foul play or a storm or any other reason for the crew to abandon ship. There are theories, right? First theory, pirates, although there's no real evidence of any pirates being involved because there was no violence. So maybe these were really nice, polite pirates. Possible, unlikely, but possible. It's also possible that a mutiny occurred, although again, there was no sign of a struggle. So, and the crew's valuables were all left behind. So that doesn't really jive. Another theory suggests that fumes from leaking alcohol in the cargo caused an explosion or a fear of an explosion, which led the crew to abandon ship. Some believe that a sudden and violent water spout occurred and could have caused the damage or fear of an imminent danger, causing the crew to evacuate the ship. And still others want to believe that this was paranormal activity, such as some sort of a sea monster or alien abduction. I think we should blame Cthulhu. I think Cthulhu did it. Well, we shouldn't blame Cthulhu, because that will make him angry. So we should just acknowledge that this was probably Cthulhu. The Roanoke Colony. The Roanoke Colony was established in 1587 on Roanoke Island in present-day North Carolina and was one of the first attempts at an English settlement in the Americas. It's known as the Lost Colony because of the mysterious disappearance of its colonists, leaving behind only cryptic clues. Roanoke was first founded in 1585, but This founding was short-lived due to conflicts with the natives and a lack of supplies. In 1587, John White led a second group of colonialists, including his daughter and her husband. However, they were facing dwindling supplies. White returned to England to get more supplies, leaving behind 115 people. Due to the Anglo-Spanish War, White was delayed and couldn't return to Roanoke until 1590. When White did return, the colony was abandoned. There was no signs of violence or struggle, and the houses had been dismantled. The word Croatoan was the only clue, carved into a post, and the letters CRO were carved into a nearby tree. No one has ever solved the disappearances or what happened at the Roanoke Colony. Now, the current most prevalent theory is that the colonists sought refuge with friendly natives, the Croatan tribe, and some people suggest that they integrated with the tribe. Others suggest that they were perhaps killed by other natives. Some believe that there may have been disease or famine, which just wiped out the colonists, and others passed due to starvation. And some other people believe that the colonists decided to head back to England and got lost at sea, which that would probably be the worst. Though living in the 1500s like that, I'm sure you just have no idea what's going on and everything's scary and you think everything is a monster. So it sounds like a bad time. I would not have wanted to be, someone who's heading to the New World. I would not have wanted to be one of those colonists heading to this area. It seems scary. The 2001 Anthrax Attacks. Man, 2001 was a wild time, wasn't it? Absolutely wild time with all sorts of stuff going on. Anyway, just weeks after the September 11th attacks, bioterrorist attacks began occurring where someone sent letters containing anthrax spores to various news media offices and 2 U.S. senators, which resulted in 22 anthrax infections and 5 deaths. These attacks caused widespread fear and disruption. And the ensuing investigation was one of the largest and most complex in U.S. history. And yet, they never found who was responsible. On September 18th, 2001, the first anthrax-laced letters were mailed from Trenton, New Jersey. On October 4th, 2001, Robert Stevens, a photo editor at the Sun tabloid in Florida, became the first person to die from inhalation anthrax. On October 9th, 2001, letters containing anthrax were sent to offices of NBC News in New York and the New York Post. On October 12th, 2001, a letter containing anthrax was addressed to Senator Tom Daschle. On October 15th, 2001, a letter containing anthrax was addressed to Senator Patrick Leahy of Vermont. The attacks stopped in November 2001. The FBI, along with other law enforcement agencies, launched a massive investigation codenamed Amerithax. Nice job on the name, guys. In order to find out who was responsible. In 2008, the FBI concluded that Bruce Ivins, a scientist who worked at the U.S. Army Medical Research Institute of Infectious Diseases, was the sole perpetrator of the attacks. However, the FBI's conclusion remains controversial, and many experts do not believe Ivins was responsible. He believes that Ivins was a convenient target. I suppose it's important to remember that at this time, there was a whole lot going on after the September 11th attacks. There was a DC sniper. There was all this crazy stuff sort of going on. And so everybody was so freaked out by this type of stuff. So obviously this created massive amounts of fear in the public, increased security everywhere, especially as it related to the mail facilities and governmental buildings. And this also helped people, essentially develop ways to detect and respond to bioterrorism attacks, which is probably a silver lining to this cloud, right? The Black Aggie statue. The Black Aggie statue is a bronze sculpture shrouded in spooky lore and local legend. It resided in the Druid Ridge Cemetery in Pikesville, Maryland. Ooh, Druids. But now rests in a courtyard behind the Dolly Madison House in Washington, D.C. The Black Aggie is actually an unauthorized replica of the Grief statue, a famous work by Augustus St. Gaudens located in the Rock Creek Cemetery in Washington, D.C. The Black Aggie was created by Edward Ludwig Albert Pausch and was placed on the grave of General Felix Angus in the Druid Ridge Cemetery. Over time, the Black Aggie became associated with various spooky tales and superstitions. People claim that its eyes grow red at night. People claim that sitting in the Black Aggie's lap at midnight would cause death or blindness. People also claim that she is a meeting place for witches and Satanists. Probably because people claim that. People said the witches and Satanists say, oh yeah, we should go meet at this place. This might be a good place to meet. This is probably one of those situations where it's a confirmation bias. People just sort of think weird things happen because of this thing. And then therefore, when something happens, they attribute the weird thing to this thing, right? The statue was eventually donated to the Smithsonian, where it was moved to its current, less conspicuous location. The Dancing Plague of 1518. The Dancing Plague of 1518 was a social phenomenon that occurred in modern-day France. It involved hundreds of people dancing uncontrollably for days, even weeks on end. And yeah, this was way before TikTok. This was like 500 some years. 500 some years before TikTok. This wasn't a joyous, happy dancing celebration. It was a deadly dance mania that led to exhaustion, strokes, heart attacks, and even death. In July 1518, a woman, Frau Troffia, began dancing fervently in the street. Within days, others joined her. Imagine dancing for days by yourself until people start joining you, by the way. They were seemingly unable to stop their frenzied movements. Initially, authorities believed encouraging the dancing would help people dance off the affliction, right? They even hired musicians and built the stage. So, hey, yeah, all these people are dancing. We'll just get some musicians set up. However, the dancing continued for weeks. By September 1518, the mania began to subside, leaving behind a trail of exhaustion and death. The exact cause of the dancing plague remains a mystery, but several theories have been proposed. Stress-induced mass hysteria. Historian John Waller suggests that the plague was a form of mass psychogenic illness triggered by extreme stress and hardship. They were facing famine, disease, and social unrest at the time. Another theory is ergotism. The dancers were suffering from ergotism, a condition caused by consuming ergot-contaminated rye bread. Now you got to look at your rye bread. Otherwise, you're just going to start dancing, right? Ergot contains a psychoactive substance that can cause hallucinations and convulsions. Some historians believe the dancing was a form of religious ecstasy or a misguided attempt to please Saint Vitus, a saint believed to have the power to inflict a dancing curse. So there you go. I don't know what to tell you about this one. Like I said, TikTok wasn't around, so if you're not getting clicks for your dancing for weeks and months, I don't know why you would even bother. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study. The Tuskegee syphilis study is a dark chapter in American medical history. It was an unethical clinical study conducted by the U.S. Public Health Service between 1932 and 1972 in Macon County, Alabama. The study aimed to observe the natural progression of untreated syphilis in black men. 600 participants, all impoverished sharecroppers and African American men, were never told that they had syphilis. They were told that they were being treated for bad blood. Even when penicillin became the standard treatment for syphilis in the 1940s, the men were denied access to it. Researchers wanted to continue observing the disease's progression, even though it led to severe health complications and deaths for many participants. The study was riddled with ethical violations, including a lack of informed consent, deception and withholding of information, denial of effective treatment, and exploiting a vulnerable population. In 1972, finally in 1972, the study was exposed by a whistleblower, leading to public outrage and condemnation. Then they stopped the study after it was exposed. So they kept going, doing this until finally someone said, hey, this thing's going on. They're like, oh, whoops, stop. In 1997, President Bill Clinton formally apologized for the study, acknowledging the government's role in this injustice. That's terrible. Like what an awful thing. What an awful history. What an awful chapter of our history, of this country's history. Cattle mutilation. Cattle mutilation is a phenomenon where livestock, primarily cattle, often experience horrific deaths with unusual and disturbing mutilations. There's usually a lack of evidence, a lack of clear cause of these deaths, which lead to a lot of various theories. Sometimes there are surgically precise cuts. Frequently, the carcasses are often found drained of their blood or no sign of blood splatter or pools in the surrounded area. There are missing organs and generally no footprints or tracks of what might have caused it, so people don't believe it was an animal. Some people believe that there's paranormal explanations. Some people believe that these are aliens that are involved. But this is a type of phenomenon that just sort of occurs. And it's a pretty deep internet rabbit hole if you want to go down that path, because lots of people have lots of theories about this thing. Kate Yupp. Kate Yupp is a wild one. Kate Yupp is a YouTuber that was known for uploading mukbang videos. If you don't know what a mukbang is, it's not a dirty thing. A mukbang is where people basically eat just a whole bunch of food, just eat this food, and there's usually a microphone so you could hear them chewing and the chewing noises that they make, and they just eat a whole bunch of food on camera, and sometimes they talk, sometimes they don't. Kate used to eat massive amounts of seafood. Just absolutely crazy. She was a thinner woman. I'll have some video footage here. What was interesting is the internet sort of ran wild with Kate Yupp, and people believe that she may have been held against her will, was being forced to make these videos against her will, and people started finding secret messages in these videos. Now, the prevailing theory is that once Kate Yupp found out that people had these theories and claimed they were finding these messages in these videos, just started putting these messages in the videos to sort of troll or gain publicity. And I think that's a pretty reasonable explanation, probably a pretty likely explanation. People would observe these videos. They would see that she did not show her face in these videos. She sometimes had bruises or marks on her hand. People believe that she was abducted. And, this sort of became a whole thing until the channel just went away. And there's never been an official explanation for it, but I think the most realistic theory is this was just a YouTuber who made this certain type of content, which was popular at the time, and saw that she had this way to sort of get more attention by, pretending to be kidnapped. So she did. Blanche Monnier. Blanche Monnier was a French woman who was secretly kept in a small room by her own mother and brother for 25 years. Here's what we know about her life. Blanche was born in 1849 to an aristocratic family in France. She was known for her beauty and had many suitors. Ooh. In 1876, at the age of 27, Blanche wanted to marry a lawyer whom her mother disapproved of. Smart mom. Don't let your kids marry lawyers. However, her mother, angered by her defiance, locked Blanche in a tiny dark attic room. In 1901, police received an anonymous letter about Blanche's confinement. They found her in a horrific state. She was emaciated. She was surrounded by her own waste. She had not seen sunlight for 25 years. Blanche's mother was arrested but died shortly after. Her brother was convicted but later released. Blanche was admitted to a psychiatric hospital where she lived for the rest of her life, died in 1913. This is a pretty heartbreaking story. People, whenever I see stories about parents and family members abusing family members, these are vulnerable people who, are being hurt by the people they love. And that's terrible. And this story is a very, very extreme version of that. But those type of things, people trusting people and loving people and letting those people and having those people hurt them, happens too often in this world. Ella Harper. Ella Harper was often known as the Camel Girl. No, not for Camel cigarettes. She was a famous American sideshow performer in the late 19th century. She had a rare orthopedic condition that caused her knees to bend backward. That just sounds painful. And this made it more comfortable for her to walk on all fours. She joined the circus in 1886, where her unusual way of walking and stage presence made her a star attraction. A promotional card from that time features a picture of her walking on her hands and feet with the caption, "I am called the Camel Girl because my knees turn backward." Very straight and to the point caption right there. Despite her fame, she decided to leave show business in 1886 to pursue an education and a more conventional life. She reportedly earned a good income in the circus, which allowed her to retire comfortably in her late teens, which, damn, if I would have known that, I would have joined the circus, right? She got married. She had a daughter who sadly passed in infancy, and she would pass away in 1921 at the age of 51. Joseph Merrick, the Elephant Man. Joseph Merrick was the Elephant Man. He was born in Leicester, England, a seemingly healthy baby. However, around 5, he began to develop abnormal growths on his skin, bone, and tissues. These deformities progressively worsened throughout his life. The exact cause of Merrick's condition remains a mystery, but it was once believed to have been Proteus syndrome. It's now believed to be a combination of Proteus syndrome and neurofibromatosis type 1. Most people have seen what Merrick looked like. And it was quite shocking appearance. He faced mean people. He lived a difficult life because of his deformities. He generally became a circus sideshow to earn a living, where he was exploited and dehumanized. He would later live at a hospital for the remainder of his life, where he became a type of celebrity. And his writings are pretty sad. You know, he really just wanted to sort of be loved and treated with respect, and people didn't. He would die in 1890 at the age of 27. People believe that he died from asphyxia caused by the weight of his head as he tried to sleep lying down. There's a lot of stuff online about the Elephant Man, and, you know, really, like I said, really it's a sad story. It's, you know, the pictures are sort of shocking and sort of fascinating, and it's fascinating to look at, you know, his skeleton. You know, there's a story of Michael Jackson buying a skeleton, and Michael Jackson feeling a connection, you know, with Joseph Merrick, with the Elephant Man. But it's really just sort of one of those heartbreaking stories. Amy Lynn Bradley. Amy Lynn Bradley was a 23-year-old American woman who mysteriously disappeared from a Royal Caribbean cruise ship in March of 1998. Her case remains unsolved, and it remains a popular unsolved mystery online. Amy was a recent college graduate from Virginia who was on a family cruise with her parents and brother in the Caribbean. She was described as athletic, outgoing, and she was loved. On March 24th, 1998, while the ship was sailing, she vanished. She was last seen on a balcony of her cabin with her brother Brad around 1 a.m. Despite an extensive search of the ship and surrounding waters, no trace of her was ever found. Over the years, there have been numerous alleged sightings of Amy in the Caribbean islands, some claiming she was seen in bars or sex trafficked. However, none of these sightings have been confirmed. You know, one of the theories, obviously, because it's a cruise ship, is that she had fallen overboard. Some people argue that it's unlikely because of her athleticism and lack of any evidence of that occurring. But again, 1 a.m. in the middle of the ocean, you know, you can be really athletic and you end up falling in the ocean, and, you know, it doesn't really matter how athletic you are. Other people believe that she was abducted from the ship, which is, you know, kind of tough because, you know, if someone's abducted, how do they get away, right? Finally, there's another theory that she just sort of disappeared on purpose and, again, just sort of sought to leave the ship. But again, where would she have gone, right? You know, it's not like people saw like a ship pull up and her hop off. So this is still an active case that's actively being investigated by the FBI. That is the end of part 2 of tier 2 of the Unsolved Mysteries and Weird Things Iceberg. If you like my content, please subscribe. Please like, subscribe, share this video. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter. My username is akbrews. On TikTok, my username is akbrews. If there is a spooky and disturbing story you would like me to cover, send me an email at thespookylawyer@gmail.com. I appreciate you watching these videos. Please go ahead and watch the other ones in this series if you haven't already, or even if you have already, go ahead and watch them again. It would help me out in the algorithm, and I would appreciate that. Thank you again for watching my video, and please remember to stay spooky.